Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic day here. We've already had some nice South American action earlier on with Fallen Eclipse and Factor X, but we have a different Fallen coming at you today. The Fallen, as a matter of fact, here to take on Oblivione. And Dex, to be fair, a lot of people would be forgiven if you're not sure who the Fallen is, because there's been some rebrandings throughout the beginning of the season. It's worth noting that this is the team formerly known for about a week as Foxhound.
And formerly known before being known as Foxhound of the old name of Nightmare Academy. And most of this team is actually that Nightmare Academy from last season for the most part. I mean, you have Dirt here, Unread, Putter, Lau, Zach on this team as well. I mean, this is a team that's been around for a little bit. At least all these players have been around for a little bit. However, we also look over at Oblivione back in NA here. Very excited to have this org back here. AST Design, Neptune, Anyon, Alex, Juice, Solsei. I mean, this is a really good lineup here for Oblivione here. Pirate as well on this team. I mean, this is like both these teams are very, very solid. And them being a very early matchup, I think is a good kind of bar setter for both these two teams as they go on with the rest of their season after this one.
Yeah, definitely so. So we'll be excited to see all these teams have amazing players, those on the bench and those in the starting five. We'll see how they end up transitioning through with all of that as well. This is one of those games I think is going to be extremely important down the line, because Oblivione, they don't get off to the greatest start in the world, but they're hoping to bounce back in this game right here. But it's not exactly going to be an easy thing against a team like the Fallen that we talked about before. Has a lot of these really amazing members, and when you can kind of go and back and forth between Dirt and Hero, who both have their own specialties, it's going to be hard to definitively shut down both of them at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Dirt, mostly known as a Roadhog player, or really known as the Roadhog player, probably in the world at this point. But outside that, they have actually been able to expand their hero pool a little bit. So it's really fun to see them get away from the Hog. But you know, when you do see that Hog, it is going to be something very, very fun to watch. Hero, on the other hand, maybe one of the better tanks here in this region, especially with all the shakiness that's happened in the last 24 hours. But yeah, I mean, this is a very deep team. Both these teams are actually surprisingly deep when it comes to their players.
Yeah, very deep. And to be fair, we found that has been successful for a lot of teams in the past to have that depth, these players that can come in, and it feels like, hey, we can play just as efficiently with any five we throw in a position right here. And I think that's the way that I would imagine both of these teams realistically feel. Now, we'll see if any changes come in out the gate for either of these squads. Obviously, these starting five are not locked in by any stretch of the imagination. We're just waiting on the Fallen to have their first ban go through. And Dex, these do tend to be on the safer side as of recent times, and that's not exactly a surprise.
It's not exactly a surprise. Getting a little bit concerned, though. But, I mean, especially for a map like Busan, you normally want to get rid of maybe a hit scan, maybe a little bit of a dive tank coming out here. Tracer to actually be the ban for the Fallen here. Oblivione now will have their opportunity. So they could easily go something like, say, a Diva if they don't want to be seeing the Diva on this map, who does find a decent amount of value. Or, I mean, again, you talk about safe bans. Kiri, Lucio, definitely part of that safe ban right now. You can get rid of Zarya here. You can't get rid of any DPS hero. So with Tracer being gone, you might see a lot of teams kind of gravitate towards that Zarya Vendetta comp still, as I feel like that's what we normally see, that flex DPS play here without the Tracer available. Genji, another one you could potentially see here, but it's just waiting for Oblivione to make their ban.
Yeah, well, Steven's coming through here. Again, Tracer, I think, is another one of those really safe picks. It's just really simple to go down that route ultimately and just deliver something that just has staying power. Again, it's the Tracer. The Tracer finds inherent value in pretty much any scenario, so I don't really blame you going down that route out of the gate. You could likely see a safe pick on the support category, potentially. It really is just dependent on the style you want to be able to force.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, very early matchup here. Wow. Very early matchup in the season for both these two teams that has a lot of meaning behind it, because, hey, you look a little bit later down the line, they still have a lot of tough matchups ahead of them. This is Masters tier. And while you could always say any given Sunday, any given day, you could have a team come out here who's potentially sitting at the lower part of the standings, beat one of those higher ones. I feel like this season in Masters, there is a little bit of a line where it's like, yeah, these teams might most likely will struggle, but this is an important matchup here. And like I said, it's really a bar setter, I think, for both these two teams going into the rest of their season, playing a very tough matchup early on in the season.
Yeah, it's a healthy thing, honestly. Rather than you have that little later down the line, you want to get tested really early on, so you need to figure out how to adjust. It makes your life a little bit easier for the long term, in my imagination. But we'll see how things go. We're just waiting on rosters to finalize, but we already see a change or two happening.
Yeah, so right now, immediately, the Fallen, they had their lineups, their stars in there, but we kind of know this is to be expected a little bit here with any team that has some subs. You can see a lot of movement. It looks like Azeroth will be coming in map 1. Same thing for Hero for the Fallen. This one, you still have Unread, Lau, and Zach as their stars. On the other side, doesn't look like we're really seeing any subs there. Actually, no, a late one. Onion going to be stepping out while Solsei going to be coming in. Domino the second ban, though.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see the Domino, again, another one of those really strong fixtures. I can't really blame anyone on going for the ban on that. With it being Busan as well, I think Domino finds value on most maps, quite frankly. It's just the kind of tank that exists in the day of 2026 Overwatch. But we'll see what kind of value we get without the Dominant in effect. I think realistically you might kind of go down the road of something like the Diva for some of these more open points. And when we go over to Mecha Base, if we get there, maybe it opens up to like the Ramattra, maybe the Orisa. There's definitely a lot of options to go down. And the Domino being gone, I think, really does enable things like that Diva to be in effect.
Yeah, I think it allows the Diva. It allows that Zarya still. I mean, like I mentioned, with Tracer being banned out, you normally do see those flex DPS players kind of gravitate towards maybe something like the Genji or maybe something like that Vendetta. And Zarya does work well with both those heroes, but so does Diva. So it's going to be really interesting to see what both these two teams are going to be coming out here with going into our first map of this series of Busan. And it looks like we will be starting off on Mecha Base. So it's going to be interesting to see what we see coming out here. Again, we both kind of probably expect it to be Diva, especially on this map where being able to traverse the high ground to low ground is very, very important here.
Extremely important. We'll see which way these teams want to go. If you want to play something that has a little more poke potential, you can easily go to the bridge more to the outside and just kind of keep rotating, give yourself space. It's more than likely we'll see these two teams brawl out of the gate, though, as we see the tried and true coming through at the very least over here from the Fallen. Meanwhile, AST Design, who has played a lot of Ramattra in the past, would be a very simple go-to scenario like this, but we'll have to see if we see the Zarya come in last second. But either way, Zach, Hero, going with that combo. We'll see how well it works to get things started.
Yeah, that's not the biggest surprise coming out here from the Fallen. I mean, I talked about it. Without the Tracer being there, you normally will see teams kind of gravitate towards playing this Vendetta at the moment. Yeah, you see actually both teams coming out with the Vendetta, but I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult here for, oh my goodness, Zach, never mind.
Bye! It was good knowing you, Zach. Hasta la vista. As that is dusted right there. That doesn't mean the fight's over, by the way. You get such an early pick to where you actually realistically get another fight.
Yeah, you're going to get another fight here pretty quickly. Juice very low, but you already do see Hero pretty highly charged, and this is exactly what they want, but you're already going to start to see Oblivione just rotate back towards point, knowing that the Fallen's not really going to have any true engagement here, that it'd almost be the worst thing they could do. They're going to let the point get captured before they eventually try to make a little bit of a split play, but Unread, King Ristle say.
Yeah, that's the big opening that you realistically needed. Now you're putting pressure on point. Someone's got the drop back to deal with Unread, who's now just kind of hanging in there. And in fact, it doesn't look like anybody's going to touch this at all. They're just going to back up and get their fifth back instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's already kind of showing you right now that both these teams very much value their vendettas in these fights, especially right now if you're looking at the Fallen, because that's basically going to be the only way that the hero gets a lot of charge and allows the Zarya to be a little bit more independent on their own.
Yeah, definitely. But now you have Katsune Rush around the corner. Pirate is slightly behind, but Lau is going to have it for right now as they're going to run through AST Design barely. Going to be hanging on. Again, that big block coming through is just really difficult to deal with still, even in 2026 with the nerfs it has had. But now this kind of gives you that range to work with, give Azeroth some space to work with, as well to find some inherent value. But right now, rotations are happening, but no one's dying.
Katsune Rush not out here from Pirate to try to get their team going here, and you already see them find Lau.
Yeah, and you're going to have the momentary cap come through. It's still a 4v4. Not something done yet, but with Azref down, yeah, that'll definitely get that one stomped in place. But Zach gets the exit frag onto Solsei, so this should be a quick regroup.
Yeah, and it already kind of looks like the Fallen at least going to have a little bit of a split play coming out here, as it's going to be Zach going straight to point while the rest of their team going to be fighting on that high ground. AST Design is trying to back up to the safety of the rest of their team, but Neptune going to be the one meeting Zach on the point.
Yeah, and making plenty of space right now as you see some bodies in there. No one going to go down as a direct zone. In fact, Sound Barrier going to be used, but it's not going to save Zach, and it is the big investment here doing the solo Graviton Surge over onto AST Design. But Solsei is still in the back, causing and wreaking havoc. The question is this a 3v3 that you can win? With Azari on your team, you hazard to say, yeah, you can take this one away, as someone's going to have to force a stall, but right now there's no stall to be had.
Yeah, no one's going to force a stall because really, Oblivione is in a great spot here coming in this fight. They have Annihilation, they have Beat, they're going to have Sundering Blade. I mean, you just use Beat and Grab if you're the Fallen here, but as of here early on, finding that. Oh no!
No, Neptune lost it. No, that's so unfortunate. Now ASC Design has to pop the Annihilation just to basically live for an extra 4 seconds, as they're going to get cut off immediately. And unfortunately, even though you're kind of in the 4v4 still, you're getting some bodies back in, you're hanging in there. Unfortunately, the rest of the team isn't for ASC Design, as now you just got to run for it, regroup for one more fight.
We were for one more fight, and the only thing you really have here right now, if you're Oblivione, is this Sundering Blade. I like what we're seeing here from the Fallen. They're taking some space, but they're immediately going to fall back and go play this upper choke point, where Oblivione has really exclusively gone through. And I mean, they're calling the shot right here. Oblivione going to try to go through this upstairs room, but now you see the ultimates coming out here.
Yeah, and now it is just clearing them out one after another. Just ASC Design and Pyra currently hanging on, but everyone is now down. The full team might come through. That will secure Mecha Base here in favor of the Fallen. And unfortunately, not the ideal scenario, but Zach doesn't even have to end up using that Sundering Blade to take that round.
No, not at all. I mean, a really good round there from the Fallen. And really, it took up until those last 2 fights to have a true team fight actually come out there where everyone was actively engaging into it, even after losing a member of their team. Those first couple engagements from both teams, it was, hey, we lost one. We're just going to back out. We're going to let you take the point, and we'll come back in with 5. Both these teams are trying to play a very, very smart game here. They're not trying to overstep their boundaries and get punished, like very much what happened with Solsei there, which kind of, I think, started the Fallen's kind of comeback in that point where Solsei got picked out very, very late in the fight that they had really won, or at least forced back the Fallen, but you immediately saw that pick happen, and then the Fallen came right back in. But look at this, Hero now swapping over to the Diva instead. No big swaps coming out from Oblivione here, so let's see how this Diva works into ASC Design's Ramastra here very early on, especially without those perks.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see what route we end up going down here, as Zach is down super early. And unfortunately, you already see Hero just being run down by ASC Design, forced out of a lot of these fights. Everyone else already sitting pretty low on health. This is looking really good out of the gate here with Hero down. This first point will be secured in tow. Here's Oblivione, this time getting off on the right foot.
Also, Hero's first death. They never died that first point. They did a really good job. Lau somehow staying alive here. Nope, never mind that. Neptune's going to be able to find them. So now a bigger reset point here for the Fallen. And honestly, I mean, you're going to stick with the Diva here for probably 1 or 2 more fights. But if you don't find anything in either one of those fights, you're going to most likely have to swap back. But at that point, it might be a little bit too late. But oh my goodness, Juice. Very quiet in that first map, or first point. Going to be able to find Azref out here. So you're just going to see a little bit more of a stall now for the Fallen, as this is exactly the start that Oblivione was looking for, as they're just keeping their space perfectly at the moment, not pushing up too far, not trying to put themselves in a bad spot where they could be punished.
Exactly. You have no reason to be up there right now. You have the tools to be able to kind of hang around wherever you really want to, but you don't want to let Azref or Zach kind of find that one person exposed and, you know, find the difference and get through. I like this. You're forcing everyone from the Fallen to make their way to the point, to force things a certain way. Now, AST Design can just kind of sit there forever on point. Everyone has to either take the attention there or has to go to the back line, where eventually AST is going to go after the sole target that just isn't defended. It's a really good way of going about it right now, but so far, no one's gone down. Pyra goes down before having this ult on the ready, but with this being the case, it is a stall game at this stage. Solsei hang around a little bit longer, as Juice and Neptune doing the exact same thing. They should get this thing close to the 75 marker. 72, though, is where it'll stop.
And you'll gladly take that. Honestly, if you're Oblivione, a great start for this map. However, really no ultimates came up for either team there. That's how quick these fights were, and each team trying to make sure they weren't really just feeding there. A good job by the Fallen not to make sure they were feeding in a lot of these fights, but look, Lao has Kitsune Rush. Pirate can have theirs as well. Hero, Azraf, and Unread not that far away from their ultimates. Hunter, this could be a pretty big ult fight here if it goes decently long.
Yep, sound barrier around the corner here for Unread. Unfortunately, don't know how much value it might find. A sound barrier this time is going to connect as Unread's going to keep them alive momentarily. The problem is, I don't know if you have the tools to pull this one back. Azraf is getting a ton of pressure and can't find any inherent value. Bomb thrown out on top of that. AST Design is in a rock in a hard place. Will be cleared out with the bomb here. Retains the mech as well. So this is still a very winnable scenario, as eventually the point flip is going to come back through at 72%. And now Juice finishes out 2 more to get that fight carried out, as Hero is getting staggered.
Hero's gonna get staggered, and it was unfortunate because Lao did come in, threw that Suzu down on them, but it was just a split second too late to save them in that mech. They probably would have lost the mech as well, but Lao going over to, nope, just the life weaver to pull them closer there. And honestly, they don't lose that much. They don't lose that much ult charge because they just used that Kitsune Rush in the previous fight. But now, touching to come out, it will be Zach that gets the touch here. But ASC Design does have the annihilation, and they're already popping it off.
Yeah, as they should. It's going to force Hero in such a compromised position. Juice is still finishing people up, by the way. He's already gotten rid of 2. You get a momentary retouch coming through, as unfortunately everyone's just so far separated. Juice is going to help get rid of a 3rd here with Azraf, and it's just the supports hanging about. Hero DMAC'd once again, as this one's going to be done and dusted. We head to a 3rd round here, where Downtown is going to settle this first map.
Yeah, Downtown's going to settle it, and I think, honestly, the D.Va might end up sticking here for the Fallen, but I think the D.Va on this last point was just not it. It wasn't finding the value you were truly looking for there. It wasn't making space. It wasn't really disrupting a lot there. A lot of the times it seemed like Heroes also just putting themselves in a spot where they were almost putting themselves in a sense of danger, a little bit far away from their team. Zach was trying to play with them, but just didn't end up working out. And now look, it looks like Hero going to stick on the D.Va on a much better point for the D.Va. AST Design, though, tease us with the Zarya, might go back to it here, but gonna be sticking with Ramattra. I like this a little bit better here from Hero. Brawl v Brawl. I think the Zarya, especially on that first map, did a number for the Fallen there. They're gonna be sticking with it here now, and Zach going back over to that Vendetta after getting the Symmetra TP out of point.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Just staying over on the Sojourn also makes plenty of sense as well. So much success in that previous round. We'll see if we'll be able to follow up with any of that. You see immediately the pressure from Zach, force him out and try to have an easier time. Unfortunately, Zach almost goes down. Luckily, he has every cooldown in the world to stay alive and get out of there. But next, it really is about getting this first pick, finding the person that is exposed and force out some of these cooldowns here. And it's right now Pirate who is having to run for it. Eventually, he's going to be able to get out, but with that, Neptune drops back to help out, is so far separated, somehow stays alive. But it's unlikely to matter as AST Design no care left. The Fallen going to take away this first point. They roll through it as well, and Lao, by the way, are ready 2/3 of the way there to having a Kitsune Rush.
Man, look at this. Almost immediately, AST Design just going to get off the Ramattra. Realize that it really struggled for them on that first point against the Zarya, and just have to say, like, hey, we have to mirror the Zarya here. And I think Solsei is going to very much thank them for that, because I think Solsei has died a little bit early in some of these fights because they do not have that bubble to kind of save them.
It did not. Juice down early, though, gives you a really good opportunity to break it through. ASC Design, though, needs a little bit of care. Unfortunately, the care is dying around them, as that's going to be a full team wipe coming through here momentarily for the Fallen. And now you have the Kitsune Rush first. You're going to likely have the beat first. You're going to have a lot of things first.
You're going to have a lot of things first here. I mean, Neptune's not even 50% to their own beat. ASC Design, because of the swap, only 33%, but they're not that far behind. But already, Laugus go off with the Kitsune Rush, and you already see Azra finding one.
Yeah, you don't mind it. AC Design dies late as well. And I like this. You're playing aggressive. You're not even giving them a chance to set up for a fight. And that's exactly what the Fallen wants to do.
50% and counting now for them. They're going to fall back. They don't really have any ultimates at the start of this engagement to really be able to keep this kind of pressure up, but not that far away from beat. You're about to have Overclock. You're about to have Sundering Blade. You're in a good spot right now to try to take these fights very, very quickly. Again, both these teams, once they lose one person, they normally just back out and wait for that person to come back. However, we're getting closer and closer to that point where Oblivione cannot necessarily do that. Pirate, though, Consumer Rush online, and they're going to use it to respond to the overclock from Azrael as we get a pause, as normally this just means someone has disconnected. We're going to try to figure out who. It's Solsei.
Not
and
the best person in the world.
Yeah, they were so close to their ultimate as well.
Yeah, so, Zach, don't kill me, Zach. Yeah, so this is gonna be rough, because you've already put in the Kitsune Rush, and unfortunately, there's no real backing out of this one. You're kind of in it to win it. There's nothing to say elsewise, honestly. They're just in a bad situation, and I don't know if there's a way out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna heavy commit into this fight. The Kitsune Rush is already kind of telling you that you looked at this fight as one that we kind of had to win here if you're ex Oblivione, and especially at that 74% that the point is at right here for the Fallen. It was one that if you lose this fight, you're going to be rushing back to the point anyway. And you look at the ultimate charge for a lot of people, as we just said, it was Solsei very close to their Sundering Blade. Juice is about to have that overclock. So they were coming into ultimates. And if you find one or two picks early on, as it looks like, the minute gone, and Solsei's not back.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now, yeah, because that's the way it works. You can't throw a pause out there anymore. Now with 85%, can't really do anything. You just have to try to bum rush to the point and get a touch.
Yeah, and I mean, the unfortunate thing is the grab now coming out, and it looks like Neptune should at least be able to get a touch here to try to extend this one, but it's going to be very tough for ex Oblivione to really do anything down a man in every fight.
Yeah, there's genuinely nothing you can do. No touches coming through, so that's going to be your first one done, and thus to take it away by the former Foxhound, now the Fallen. But in all fairness, it really was heavily going their way going into that fight. You obviously don't know what could have happened elsewise. It's unfortunate, but you gotta just truck on, move forward, and figure it out, unfortunately.
Yeah, very unfortunate, because ex Oblivione looked like on that second point, they kind of figured out everything that the Fallen wanted to do, but I think the Fallen playing that diva just did not end up working out for them at all. Like I said, it kind of messed up their entire flow that we saw from point 1, and especially there on point 3 when the Zarya was there, really allowing Azrael to be able to do what they wanted on that on the Vendetta, just being able to play a little bit aggressively there, and it's just unfortunate that is the case. And I mean, we've seen other problems happen like this in the past, where hey, one person gets DC'd from the server, and then it's another person getting DC'd. This is the first time I think me and you have seen one person just get DC'd and them not be able to get back into the lobby. Very unfortunate for ex Oblivione, because like you said, it would have been tough for them to maybe win that point, but again, it's one of those what if situations.
It definitely is, but with the fact that they are, picking as quickly as they are for EXO, I think they figured out the solution. They're going to be able to go in with a different 5 going into this one. Or more so, I would say, have their 5 ready to go for this one. As they ban out the Vendetta pretty much immediately. Saravoss is picked immediately as well. And to be fair, after what we saw, the Vendetta being gone, for me, it makes a ton of sense.
Oh, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, the Vendetta's got a lot of value for both teams that map. Even though the Vendetta, unfortunately, Solsei got disconnected in that final point. I mean, you can go back to the second point and the first point where they looked incredibly well on it. Even without that Zarya there to be able to bubble them, they looked good in a lot of those situations. Ban for the Fallen did come in. We'll let you know what it is when we figure it out here, but it's going to be interesting to see, does Solsei stay in here? Does some subs come in? Do other subs come in here for the Fallen? Because, I mean, Dirt is still there. Putter is still there. We know how good they are. Shaq is still there as well for the Fallen, so we could see a lot of movement coming in here, but again, that's a little bit of a lackluster and a little bit of a buzzkill way to end that last map there for ex Oblivione. They need to get off to a good start this map, though, just to kind of show that how that map ended doesn't necessarily affect them both mentally and just their momentum going forward.
Yeah, I imagine it won't affect them too much. I think they'll just simply lock back in and go again. I think that's what a lot of these players are good for, is being able to simply bounce back from any kind of scenario. These are players that are not shy to the spotlight. They're not shy to the playoffs, to those big game deals and having to fight back in them. Not shy in the slightest. So we'll see what comes through here. As again, we're just waiting for the lives to finalize. We'll see if there's any swaps. For now, hasn't been any. We'll see if anything comes into play. But it wouldn't surprise me if these lineups stay as they do, quite honestly.
It wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, this This might be one of the maps that I would expect to see Dirt on, because I feel like you play a lot of poke on this map, and Hog definitely could be a viable pick on this map in some cases. But I just think we saw an excellent kind of play there from Hero that first map to really say like, hey, you don't need to really make this sub here right now. But still, about a minute and a half left on that timer for them to finalize their rosters. Does Solsei stay in? Does Solsei even have connection back? I think that's going to be a big thing here for them. We might see a sub just because of that for Oblivione. But like I said, Oblivione needs to get off to a good start in our second map, or else, I mean, they'll be staring down the barrel of a 3-0 sweep potentially, and their back's already against the wall. But still, I think this Oblivione team has the talent to really make this an even series after 2 maps.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you see the timer kind of going down. I think just waiting for like, hey, if the connection doesn't come back, we do that, and we will see a swap come through at the last second as well, as the lineups will finally say Solsei onto the bench, Alex taking over.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because that definitely means there's still a little bit of a problem with Solsei. At least that's what I'm going to assume is the case here. This could just be a legitimate sub for this map where they were going to bring in Alex anyway. But, I mean, Solsei, a really good player. Unfortunate that maybe there might be an internet problem with them. But, again, Kiriko going to be our second ban here coming out from the Fallen. So I think you're really seeing something here. They want to try to play away from it here. Dirt, not going to be in this time around. Same thing with Putter and Shaq for the Fallen. No subs for them, actually. But what do we see? Do we see Poke? Do we see that Diva come back out here? Or do we even see the Zarya still? Because, I mean, Zarya's still strong with anyone here, and you already see Hero at least locking the Zarya for the brief moment. ASC Design, though, going over to the Domina. I mean, Hunter, me and you have seen what the Domina's been able to do, especially earlier tonight in South America. North America, though, it might be a little bit different, but still, Domina very strong at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what goes down as a result. Alex, Zach both going to TP out. Realistically, might be the Tracers, but Zach was peeking over on that venture. And remember, the original combo with the Zarya really did come down to that venture. Then went over to the Reaper, and obviously the Vendetta has been the go-to for some time here. And yeah, we're going to go with the... Oh, I love the venture style with this. We'll see how well it works out, though, to get things started on this first point.
I do like the venture here. I really do. Like you said, it's a really fun kind of style, but if you want to be able to get past this Domina, it's basically just have Zach burrow behind ASC Design and just try to drill dash them through their shield, put them in front of it so that they can get all the damage there, because that's been the one thing we've kind of always seen with Domina, is that they just have a lot of sustainability, a lot of just a lot of health, it seems.
Oh, a ton. And now Hero, all the charge in the world, but still needs to find a way to actually use it. His ASC Design is going to be burnt to smithereens, and the rest of the squad, unfortunately, just has to prioritize their own lives here, as Alex install a little while longer in on this one, but it's just not going to matter, as Alex is going to get out alive for the time being. The reset as the Fallen again start off strong.
I mean, again, this is what I said. Oblivione, they could still come back this point. They need to have a strong start, though. That was not necessarily the best one there, as you really just saw Zach and Hero kind of melt away through the shield just to get enough of an opening to get to ASC Design, and the support was not there to really keep him alive. I mean, the longer you keep this Domina in fights, the better of a chance you have to win them here, especially because of how good Domina is. And you already see Hero and almost Unred getting taken out there. But still, if you are Oblivione, you need to be able to punish someone who's playing on an off angle, and there it is.
Yeah, the punishment that you were looking for. Neptune, though, is being taken care of, so you lose out on that speed aspect. Hero is a little separated, but there's so many low bodies right now to where if Hero gets even just a little bit of help right now, they should be able to shut this down. But Hero so far separated at this point to where the slightest bit of damage might just take care of business. Now the fact that they're so separated means they can't even participate fully in the fight, and Zach cannot touch again. 78% going to come out, and while Pirate is going to go down, Zach, Hero are not going to be survivors.
They're not going to be survivors there, and I think this is exactly what you need if you're Oblivione. One good fight, and like you said, everyone's kind of playing split up there. Even though there were low bodies there for Oblivione, there was just not enough finishing power individually there for the Fallen to really be able to take that fight right back. However, you look at the ultimates here coming in this next engagement. You have Overclock, you have Grab ready to go, and there's not a beat on the other side to really slow it down. Alex's Pulse Bomb is going to be really the only thing ready here for Oblivione early, but if you can just wait a little bit longer, Juice should have that Overclock.
Yeah, and with the shield gone, Azif is probably going to pull the trigger momentarily on this overlock to maybe try to burn down AST Design, but here it comes. Hazel as well. Big stick, though, as Azif is taken down at the perfect time. And now, point is going to flip over, and Juice, it's going to be their turn to try to change this one around. Zach is down early. The solo grab over on to Juice. Is it going to find a ton of value right here? Is Rally going to be thrown in as well? They really want to try to find a way to win this fight. As Panopticon also gets thrown out. Doesn't end up finding a ton either, but Unread is just so far separated at this point. They'll eventually be taken out, but they're somehow staying in this one as it'll flip back over. The question is, will we have a retouch? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think we should see a retouch here. Now, Hero getting off of the Zarya, going over to the D.Va instead. This definitely does really buy that they want to go for a retouch here. You have Zac having this Tectonic Shock ready to go, and I imagine they do have the perk that gives them the 300% ult charge or ability charge up there. There's a touch coming out there from Zac. Hero now coming in behind them, trying to keep them alive here, but the beat out from Neptune early.
Yeah, and Azrav is just separated, and now this is rough as Zac's thrown into the air, and Neptune gets tossed like a frisbee. Oh my god. Stays alive though, but the rematch coming through does not inspire confidence here, as eventually they'll be cleared out. Azrav goes back over to the Tracer now in this exchange to maybe help, but I don't think a retouch is coming through as Neptune is finishing off body after body, and that's going to be the first one heading over to EXO.
And honestly, I think this is exactly what you want here if you're EXO. Didn't get off to the best start, but look at what you already have here now from the Fallen. Hero making a swap, Azrav who made swap, Zac made swaps. You got exactly what you wanted. You got the Fallen off of their chosen heroes early on, and you put yourself into a great spot going to our second point where you have your own Pulse Bomb, you have your own Amp Matrix. There's nothing ready here in the near future for the Fallen. You are now in a good spot if you're Oblivione to really start to get a foothold in this map, in this series, and start to become a little bit more the dominant team here.
Hey, that's definitely what you're hoping for, but we'll see how it ends up going down. Alex has a Pulse Bomb ready to go. We'll love to find a target. Azrav, though, is by themselves. Lanches slide back down as Pulse is thrown up there. Doesn't find any inherent value, though, as the Tracer's back into the 1v1. Back over on the point. Azrav eventually taken out. Hero now doesn't have quite as much care, but Neptune jumps into the middle of the point. Will be taken care of very swiftly so. So you're hoping to get one more touch on here. Hero will get it, will step off momentarily once more, but still manages to retain it as Hero had themselves a nice little Thanksgiving dinner eating the Panopticon. Pirate is separated while Hero is definitely getting plenty of damage thrown into them. They're getting even more care in return.
I was talking about how it looked like Oblivione was in a good spot here, kind of get a foothold in this map and start taking it over, but now it all kind of falls apart as it is actually the Fallen who gets the first cap here, only expelling the Orbital Ray, but you lose Zac early on. Look at ASC Design, though, going over to this Ramatra now. Wants to have a little bit of an upper hand on Hero, and I think this is a great swap here right now.
100%. We'll see how it goes, though. You see them willing as bite. Okay, Hero. See you next fall, buddy. Unfortunate. And now they're going to keep moving through. This one's somehow not done quite yet. But with that, it's just Zac and Azrav who said, nah, this is not my job. Azrav said, nah, actually, no, it is my job. They'll get rid of Juice, but it's not going to matter a ton as of this moment.
Oh, Azrav's actually going to be able to get out here. This could be a really quick re-engage now from the Fallen, especially with a bomb, their own overclock, and a Pulse Bomb about to be ready for them. They could go really fast here. However, you look at the other side. Oblivione is about to have 4 of their own ultimates here, and in a really good spot just to be able to kind of stall on this point for a very, very long time, unless it was someone like AC Design early.
You'll have to see right now. Bomb's still available here, both for Zac and Hero for that matter. But you still have to play the safe right now. You can't let Juice just keep taking pot shots over and over again. You have to back up there as eventually Sound Barrier thrown in. Remember, there's no Sound Barrier available because Lau is over on the Juno right now. So now Alex being taken care of is going to open the door a little bit more. Hero might have to bomb here shortly to retain, but it's just going to back up a little bit and get some care.
No, but that's a great kind of engagement there for the Fallen. You got rid of 3 good ultimates right there and really only lost 1 person. And you find Pirate almost immediately. This should be you at least getting this point in your control. AC Design will fall, but now it looks like it's just be staggering touches out here for Oblivione. As they will get up to about 90, I think 8% before it flips over. So all they really need to do is win 1 fight here. But already at 50% and counting right now for the Fallen. Oblivione really only has maybe about 1 more fight on this point before it's all said and done. And you look at the Fallen. Bomb, Pulse Bomb, and another Orbital Ray for Lau ready to go. You're looking at AST, you're looking at Juice. Someone needs to find an early pick or build up an ultimate fast. Alex throws out the Pulse Bomb, finds nothing but ground.
Yeah, but Unread's unfortunately in such a bad situation. Eventually he's taken care of. Hero might have to be forced to use the bomb, and in fact they will, just to go back to the point and remake. And they're throwing everything in this fight, thinking, hey, we can still turn this around, we can win this, but ASC Design is just taking every bit of damage right in the face, but still the rest of their team is not quite as protected, being cleared out, and now it's looking like this one right here is going to be traded out here. AC Design going to fall on over. The Annihilation, jeez, does not work, as we're going to tie things up here on Cervasa.
And It looks like we're heading all the way across the map now to Palace here. But again, a very expensive fight there for both teams. A lot of ultimates invested there. That ASC Design Annihilation, they were really hoping was going to be able to get them that point flip, and which would eventually ended up with them taking the point. But now Hero, still not in mech, has to build that up here pretty quickly, or it's going to be a very easy engage here for Oblivione. But I don't think they know that Hero's not in that mech yet, because they're really not taking advantage of it. Hero back in the mech, almost gets the crush kill there, but going to be able to safely get back into it here and fly back to their team.
And now it might be dependent on Zach to get the initial touch if you decide you want to take this point away or fight for it before the cap comes through. But Hero is back in time, so there actually will be time for that touch. Instead, Alex has another pulse bomb, is hoping for a good one right here. Is waiting for the target, decides it's not worth it. Hold on to it a little while longer. It's unread. Has the rally coming through. Pulse bomb going to get absolutely nothing, as they're going to be ran down. This point is going to be lost before that 20% marker. 60% is all you get.
And a really good engagement there, and that's probably one of the fastest percentages you could get a point back after having it flip over there. 16 is very low. It's about like what, 14, 15 seconds there. I don't know how fast the percentage goes up, but it's a lot faster than just normal control here. But you look at this next engagement, you're gonna have at the Fallen again in a really good spot. You're only using that rally in the last engagement. They're gonna have 4 ultimates ready to go, while beat an Amp Matrix and the overclock potentially from Juice gonna be online here. But you already start to see a little bit of a split coming out here as ASC Design goes right down mid, but you see the rest of the team really go up to that high ground, trying to get control of that.
Yep. Pulse bomb's still look for Zach. It's Azrath, though, that needs to find a little something. Something has to back out so heavily, though, is trying to find some pot shots. Unfortunately, no one really wanted to expose themselves to snarl like this. To be fair, can't blame a single person for that here, as Hero is struggling to stay over on this point with all this damage coming through. Bomb is going to be available to be able to re-mech with. That they will be able to do successfully, but Juice is keeping them in this, at least for the moment. But eventually, resources are going to run out. Cooldowns expiring, and AST Design, while they take it back momentarily, I don't see this as permanent.
I mean, Alex is there with them. There's no supports. You lose Alex now. AST Design, the only one left alive here for Oblivione. You do have Neptune coming back now on this brig, but you're gonna have to immediately see him fall back. Do we see another engage here? I think Hero's gonna try to make sure that does not happen. And no, it's not. They know where the next point's gonna be. It's gonna be exactly right behind him. So that looks like to be the plan here for Oblivione. Just play for the first fight here, or an early fight here on our potential final point of this map here. Only have the pulse bomb to their name. They're gonna need to get something here early on, as both pulse bombs ready to go here. And let's be honest, both these tracers haven't really been able to find much with them so far.
So far, no. We'll see, as they've been really just in each other's grill, essentially, thus far. Haven't really found the big connection that you're kind of hoping for, and that's really what you need, that big connection. But that's the one right there, onto Azrath. We talking into reality here. As without the Soj, you're simply forced to kind of back off momentarily, and as you see Zach back up, they're just going to surrender this point away as sort of, how is that not censored?
Yeah, because there's a Q in the what.
Oh my
but
God.
Here's the thing, again, going back to what we saw a lot on the first map. If one of these teams loses someone early on, they don't engage into the fight. They don't want to stagger themselves out more. They don't want to feed more into it. They just back up and re-engage. The Hero now going in, going to be able to get themselves out of there safely. Not going to be able to find anyone just yet, but you're slowly starting to see Oblivione start rotating back towards point, as the Fallen now coming in at full strength.
Yep. Zach hoping for a perfect pulse bomb moment coming up here. Juice right now is forced in the back, and it's going to be a connection on the Sojourn once again. Big opening now coming their way. 50% is on the board, though. It's all about trying to sustain this as long as you possibly can, but ASC Design, again, running out of resources very quickly. It looks like they're just going to back up and let this go at 64%, as they want to try to get everybody out alive. But Zach and Hero not letting that happen. Everyone's going to fall over regardless.
A great collapse there by the Fallen. They understood. They knew that AST Design was low. They knew that it was Pirate and Neptune trying their damnedest to keep them alive there, but they understood that if they all just focused in on them, dived in on them, there was not going to be any survivors there. I like that play for them. Now, again, look at the ultimates. You're about to have 4 online here for Oblivione. You're going to have 4 online for the Fallen as well. And this will be a pretty heavy fight here, as you already see the overclock coming out, but the rally in response from Neptune.
Yeah, no one really able to find anything quite yet, but now everything in place. You are in final fight territory. Now, luckily, you still have yourself the Annihilation. You still have the Amp Matrix to work with. You have great tools here, but you might argue there are better ones available here. But Azrath down early puts you in such a vulnerable position where Pirate is being tossed around like a ragdoll, and the rest of their team might be following suit. It's down to the 3v3. ASC Design and Juice need to pop off for the sake of the team to keep them in this one. But it's just AST Design now, having an Annihilation ready to go. Is going to try to burn away Hero. Will do so as AST Design is hit with plenty of damage as the Pulse Bomb's not going to connect. And Alex dies on the point. Neptune is there momentarily to stall things out, but it's not going to be enough. It's going to be match point coming online here for the Fallen. EXO, they try as they will. Unfortunately, again, they come up just a bit short.
Just a bit short, but I think this was a much better map for Oblivione compared to what we saw from Busan. However, it's just the Fallen finding ways to really win fights. And again, there are a lot of situations this map where the Fallen went into fights not having that ultimate advantage and still ending up just dragging the fight out long enough to where they found themselves having the ultimate advantage. Really great play all around from them, but a lot of these final fights we saw come out there, each team had a number of ultimates, and it just really seemed like there was a little bit more understanding and communication coming out from the Fallen, who they needed to get rid of first. And I think a lot of that comes down to how Hero was really playing that diva, focusing just in on the back line in a lot of those situations, really disrupted all the healing that came out from both Neptune and Pirate there. Great play there from the Fallen, understand where they needed to go. Oblivione, I feel like a lot of it just hinged on how much space AST Design was able to take. And a lot of the time you just saw that, well, the Fallen just let that space be taken because they were more focused on the back line instead.
Yeah, definitely were. So we'll see the last opportunity you're going to have for EXO to have that map pick in that first ban. As Runasapi is going to come through for our third and potential final map, and we'll see which way the ban goes. I think it feels like there's a plethora, honestly, of issues that were kind of going your way. I mean, Dex, just they're going to select momentarily. What would you realistically not want to deal with here?
The hard question is, do you want to get rid of Diva on this map? I think that's what you're really looking at this point, because it seems like that's kind of what Hero wants to be playing. And same thing a little bit as well for AST Design. Diva was a great pick there last map for them. However, it's the Juno, and you know what? This has been, I think, a very much a sleeper pick here for just bans in general. But you have been seeing Lao exclusively play this Juno, especially last map. I believe they had 4, 5, maybe even 6 orbital arrays there. I mean, they were building those up very, very quickly. I think they would just want to try to force Lao onto that Lucio, one that I think that Oblivione really believes, and if they get them off that Juno, force them onto the Lucio, you're not going to be getting as much damage. And I think that's one thing that Lao very much did that last map, as I want to look at the stats here quickly. Yeah, Lao had about almost 5,000 damage last map playing that Juno, and almost 14,000 healing, which was a big thing considering that's almost, well, they almost had about 4,000, really about 3,200 more healing than the highest healer on Oblivione that last map, playing the Juno.
Yeah, a little insane. Juno can have high output, but it's not a default thing like maybe a Mercy or a Moira or something in that regard, where you got to try hard to get those numbers up, and it's really impressive that you're in that state. But no Juno might force the down of something like the Kiri Lucio scenario. I imagine that's what I imagine will come through for both teams here. The question really is what the counterban is going to be coming through for the Fallen, because you have a couple of options. You could take away ASC Designs of have they banned out their Ramatra yet?
No.
I don't think they have. I think that's a realistic option. It's something you could genuinely pull down on a Runasapi and force them to go to the route of the double Diva instead, which, as they've really been shown, the Fallen tend to have an edge in that format with Hero playing it.
Yeah, and you could potentially see something like the Domina come out here as well. If you want to get rid of a certain DPS hero, do you get rid of the Tracer? I don't remember if they were the ones that banned out Tracer in map 1 or not. You get rid of Vendetta just to make sure you don't really have to deal with that here. Zarya is back on the table this map, unless we see the Fallen ban out the Zarya here. There's a decent amount of options here for them. They haven't really been playing anything different from what you've been playing this entire series, so it's one of those situations where me and you always talk about as a double-edged sword, where we're banning something from them, but we're also kind of banning something from us here as well. I understand that's what the bans are, but I think you kind of understand what I'm saying with that. But still, I think you have a good idea here of what you want to ban out. And I mean, with subs, you never know. You might really see a ban come out here that might really encourage maybe some subs coming in here for either one of these teams.
Yeah, you might be able to see so. Thus far, no one's swapping around quite yet, but with 45 seconds left, you never know. We had one happen at the last second in the second map. Maybe the same thing will happen here in the third after a little bit of debate. That's why we have the time here to kind of finalize the lineups and make sure, hey, We know who we want in. We feel confident with these 5 right here. And I'm sure we'll have that conclusion in less than 30 seconds coming through here. I can't imagine that the Fallen is going to change anything up. And indeed, we are ball knowers in the chat. Ramatra banned out.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ASC Design has been kind of relying a lot on this Ramatra throughout this entire series, and just in general. We know ASC Design to be a really good tank player, especially those brawl tanks. So you get rid of that Ramatra here, force them into something like the Zarya, if they really want to try it, maybe even the Orisa here a little bit, because you do see at least a decent amount of Orisa played on this map from time to time. And hell, we saw a little bit of Orisa earlier this evening in South America. Granted, completely different region, so there is style differences. There is style differences, I will say that. But it's going to be interesting to see now what we see come out from ASC Design. Doesn't look like we're going to see Soulsay back in, so Alex will stay in. No subs as well from the Fallen. So, unfortunately, if you guys are here for Dirt and their Hog, you're not going to be seeing that here tonight. Or, I mean, you might be seeing it here tonight, but it really all comes down to, can Oblivione be able to get a map win under the belt and start the reverse sweep?
Yeah, that really is the question. I think I saw enough of Dirt Gaming earlier today. Had a show match between Team Poland and Team Turkey. Bro did not have fun on the Hog. Let's just say that. Did not have a good time. We'll see how.
Redemption could be right now.
It could be time for redemption at the last second sub in. We'll see what ends up happening. But again, we're just waiting on the last connection to come through here from Hero, and then we can get this thing properly started with Runa Sampi. But with the Ramatra out, what do you realistically do if you're AST Design? Because my brain immediately, again, went to, hey, we just double down on the Diva. We know it's going to be copied. You could go back down the route of a Zarya, because remember, the Vendetta is also back on the table for this map coming up. You definitely have options ready.
Yeah, you have options. I feel like Zarya is probably the most likely. Diva is probably the next one right after that. We did see ASC Design play a little bit of Domina to start off last map, and Oblivione. I mean, they won the 1 point playing Domina for the most part. Eventually had to get off it to go over to that Ramatra that is now banned out. So I think it's probably most likely those 3. An odd one would be Jungle Queen, because this is one of the maps where you do see Queen, I think, get a decent amount more play than a lot of the other maps that's in the map pool here for Faceit Season 8 right now. But again, I'm looking at trying just, what does Oblivione need to do here? Who needs to get going early on? It's something I always say, and I think the easy answer would be like, hey, this TPS line needs to get going. Alex and Juice, they did good last map, but Zach and Azruf, they were finding value after value after value. But I think the biggest problem really was the hero that we did see Oblivione banned there, was the Juno. I thought Lau was doing an incredible job on the Juno that last round. I mean, like I said, I think 5 or 6 orbital rays, almost 14,000 healing. I mean, it even surprised both of us there that they almost had 4,000 healing more than the highest healer on the other side.
Yeah, definitely so. So we'll see what ends up happening. It is indeed going to be the Kyrie Lucio from both sides, but interesting. So ADC Design going back towards that Domina. Hero back on the Zarya as well with Zach, obviously, with that Vendetta match that was banned out in the previous map. So definitely issues at hand here. AST Design has to worry very much about the positioning, because if they're caught out even a little bit, they can be burnt down quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with Zach playing this Vendetta here. You know they're going to be getting the bubble from Heroes. Hero already expelling one of those bubbles onto themselves to get themselves charged up here. But a lot of Domina's abilities actually go through those bubbles to also damage the Zarya here. But Zach now going in, looking for one bubble, will get it there, but immediately just has to fall right back out. I think this is exactly what you want here if you Oblivione early. Force the Fallen here to be the ones engaging, but ASC Design needs a lot of help.
Oh, a ton of help there. Chasing ASC Design down. Is literally just looking down, waiting for that shield to come through. Eventually, it looks like it'll be able to help out, but they're going to try to burn through it immediately once again. ASC Design has to back off it for the moment being, and already you're seeing the troubles that ASC Design and the rest of the squad is going to be dealing with for the next 9 minutes.
Yeah, another thing here. Alex is playing in this backline, and they're going to be able to find Unred right there, which is huge. This is exactly what you need. Alex should be a backline pest here, but ASC Design still is the focal point of this team.
Yeah, but you need to capitalize now and get it ready, Hero. Well, I'll tell you what, that's definitely a good way to capitalize. Azruf keeping them in this. Zach's still in here as well, but you're in a bit of a 2v1 scenario that I don't think you're realistically getting out of. Zach is going to eventually chase Alex out, but Alex is still alive and will be able to help with the retouch.
Okay, have to get the retouch here, and honestly, you're gonna probably see a little bit of a fallback here from the Fallen, just because you're not gonna have the numbers very early on to try to contest this first or this checkpoint. You're gonna have to fall back, let the rest of the team come in, but actually, the majority of the team is back with help there from Unread. Blau almost getting taken out very early here, but still, Alex needs to be more of a pest in this backline. If they can get rid of one of these supports early on, it really does benefit their team here, but they have to play safe. Pulse Bomb already ready for them. They could be looking for something big here.
Definitely could be. See if we find anything early on here. Alex would love to catch onto someone like Azraf to prevent that overclock from coming through, but Lau is just going to have a continued rush available here. And the moment they're ready, they're going to pull this trigger, and they're going to be able to take so much space. Now, Pirate now will have the response after a little bit of waiting on that, but again, they're just burning clock, and you're relatively fine with that as continued rush going to be thrown out here. Pirate eventually going to let it be sent back. Unri going to be down early, but ASC Design traded out. Is not exactly the trade I'm going for, and now you pull in multiple bodies, you clear them out, you're gonna have the checkpoint coming your way. Took less than 3 minutes to do so, and that is so worthwhile.
Yeah, and the Fallen right now, I mean, they're looking great. ASC Design, they have this Panopticon ready to go. And honestly, Hunter, they could throw it out here. If they don't find the value with it and immediately die, they have to get off this Domina. I think the Zarya is just doing too much to them. I think Zach is doing too much to them as well. Domina can provide a lot of pressure, but right now they are out pressuring ASC Design on this Domina. And you're seeing just Oblivione run into problem after problem here. Alex is not being able to find that value in the backline because they're always having to peel back towards the front line to try to help out ASC Design, who is just not putting themselves in bad spots, but just being out pressured.
Yeah, just being consistently out pressure, and there's not a whole lot you can do either. You're already at the 90-meter mark coming up here. ASC Design is just getting ran down, by the way, doesn't have the support. I genuinely think after this Panopticon use right here, I think you consider swapping, because this is not working at all.
I think you might just have to give up on the Panopticon. Really, you do. I think holding on to it is not the right thing here, especially still with 2 ultimates online here for the Fallen. Yeah, you have 2 ultimates here if you're Oblivione, but still, it's just not working out. You're not getting that pressure that we've seen a lot of Dominos be able to just take, and that space they're able to get here. But still, you could be looking at the DPS line. Juice and Alex, they've been very quiet, other than a couple picks that Alex has been able to find in the back. That Stunning Blade, though, out from Zach, and no one's taking them out of the sky.
Yeah, they just have to hide away. No one can risk that right now. Astrov is forced into the corner, is alive momentarily, but the rest of the team is eventually going to fall over. Unri gets one on the way out, but Lau is going to get some slight staggering before being taken out here. And that's a fight when you desperately needed, but the damage has been done in masses.
And you look at the lead here, 137-8, 129 meters right now. Essentially, you have to complete this map here if you're Oblivione to keep this series alive. You still have this Panopticon, but when are you going to use it? I think that's one thing. AC Design has definitely been holding on to this one. Everyone on the Fallen knows that this is available here. Alexo does have Pulse Bomb, which you could really use early on here to try to get something out from the other side, especially like that Consumer Rush. There it is, lands on the 2.
Yeah, big Panopticon, and it's going to be the perfect time for a sound barrier from Unread. And now, Azrov's going to keep running over bodies. Honestly, they have throughout the entirety of the series so far. Even more so as everyone else just has to try to back out and regroup once again.
ASC Design sticking with the Domina here. They have a lot more faith in it than both me and you. And, I mean, they are a lot better player than us, I will say that. But you look over now at Oblivione. Juice Juice.
Yeah, not a whole lot you can do there. Hero, at the very least, is suffering, and is going to stay alive again. And now AC Design is just backing out and just can't even die on the point. And now you have to have desperation touches, but everyone's dying anyway.
It's going to be rough here. I mean, you're going to see Neptune probably try to come out. It's actually going to be Juice with a touch here, but Hero going to be able to take care of them. Alex, emerges for a brief moment right there, but that will be it. I mean, Oblivione, I thought they might have figured something out in map 1. Thought they really figured something out in map 2, but map 3 was just a little bit of a swing and a miss from them here. And, I mean, the newly named The Fallen is going to be able to keep their streak alive here. I believe now they moved to 2-0 on the season. And, I mean, you might have to start talking about them as maybe being one of those teams that a lot of people are sleeping on. But, again, very, very early on in the season.
Oh, I definitely think you got to put that in the conversation. I don't think that's an exaggeration whatsoever. That is a bit of a rough one for Oblivione, who are not having the best start to the season as I think some people may have been expecting. But that's now 2-0 for the Fallen, put themselves in a big situation. I think one of only like 5 teams that still are undefeated with at least a game under their belt, I should say.
Yeah.
But no, it's a really good display. Absolutely loving it. So we'll see how things kind of proceed onward from here. But honestly, it's a much needed win for them.
Yeah, I mean they joined Dilducks as the only teams that are 2-0 right now. Meow Academy and Element Normal are also undefeated, but have only played one game. I believe Element Normal is also playing right now, so that number might change here tonight, whether it's the number of 2-0 teams or just a number of undefeated teams here at the moment. But again, this is exactly the start you're really looking for here for the Fallen, especially as there's a lot of random chaos happening right now in this Masters tier that we're not going to talk about. But I mean, I think Dilducks being a 2-0 team, not necessarily the biggest surprise. That is a good team. Dilducks are normally able to put together really good teams, even if in non-WCS they have struggled in the past, but still they always find great players here in Masters here. I think one of the biggest surprises to me right now might be Vivacity, who is 2-1, I believe, also playing tonight. I think they're actually playing Element Normal here tonight. Yeah. So you could see one of those. You could see Element Normal stay as an undefeated team, or Vivacity go to 3-1, and I think be one of those teams that has really impressed both of us so far. I mean, we've covered 2 of their games. They've been a really fun team. Outside that, though, still waiting on 2 teams to play their first game as we are nearing the end of week 2, and we definitely know that one of them is not playing till next Friday at the moment.
Yeah, that's a fun scenario. It's
a story for another day.
It is definitely a story for another day. We'll come to it when we come to it. But for today and honestly for the week, that's it for Faceit League games. There's a couple more going on throughout the weekend. Obviously, like tomorrow is Team Z versus Oblivione, so EXO again another tough game that they really need to go into. Element Normal faces Hivemind Sunday night. That'll be a good game. There's some games happening on Tuesday that's already been rescheduled for that. It's going to be... The weeks are going to get busier and busier as the season keeps progressing, and that's obviously on the point of everyone rescheduling their games in the first 2 weeks.
I mean, we're going to see a lot of reschedules throughout this entire season. We saw it last season as well. I mean, we already know one team, I think, already in that area where they're having a gauntlet towards the end, which is unfortunately a thing we see a lot. But still, I mean, I want to focus back in on this one. The Fallen, they look like a team that is well put together. They seem like a team that could really go up against a lot of the teams that everyone's talking about being, you know, those contenders, those heavyweights, and probably go toe-to-toe with them. I mean, this is a really good roster, and the Fallen, whether this is the Fallen org that we have, that we know from Fallen Destiny and Fallen Eclipse in South America, or this is a completely different org, this team, or this org, found a good team here in Masters tier, and I would be very, very excited for them. Still haven't seen a couple of their players yet this season, but that, I think that's a good thing. It really lets you know that they have a really deep and strong roster. Outside that, though, if you're Oblivione, 1 and 2, not the start you were really looking for here, but you will eventually turn around. The names on that team for Oblivione are good enough to really be able just to flip the switch and look like one of the best teams here in this region. It's gonna be really fun to watch them over these next couple of weeks, even if we're not covering them, watching the other coach streamers and just watching their games back. I think they're gonna be a team that you're gonna still want to watch out for here.
Yeah, that's going to be extremely entertaining. There's a lot of amazing games that are still going to be coming up this season. We'll take them as we do. As for our schedule next week, obviously, we'll let y'all know when we figure it out ourselves. But there's some interesting games coming up here that I'm really looking forward to being able to see the results of. There was a couple that were still going on today as Wink got a win for reasons that we'll talk about probably a little later down the line. Vivacity now up 2-1 over Element Normal. We'll see where that will go from here. But hey, that's for a different day to talk about. For everyone, thank y'all for coming out here. We'll be back with another week of Faceit League after the coming weekend. So everyone, enjoy yourselves. Enjoy some OWCS. Have yourself a great time. We'll see you next time for some more Faceit League action.